She brought her little girl on a blind date, but the single dad's reaction changed everything. Her little girl, Emma, was playing on the carpet with a set of colorful building blocks, humming a tune she had learned at preschool. Sarah smiled at the sight. Emma was 3 years old, a bundle of energy, curiosity, and charm. She had a way of lighting up every corner of their tiny apartment, but she also made life unpredictable. Sarah had been single for 5 years. Since Emma's birth, dating had felt impossible. She had tried a few times, meeting someone for coffee or dinner, but it had never worked out. Either the person wasn't ready for a child, or the connection just wasn't there. Lately, her friends had been nudging her more insistently. "You deserve to be happy," her best friend Laura would say. "Someone who will love both you and Emma. You can't give up." When Laura set her up with a blind date, Sarah had hesitated. Blind dates made her anxious even without a child in tow. She didn't know the man, didn't know what he liked or how he would feel about a child being present. But after a long week of Emma being sick and taking care of everything alone, Sarah thought maybe it was time to try. After all, she had been craving some human connection beyond diapers, storybooks, and preschool pickups. The evening had arrived faster than Sarah expected. She had spent the afternoon picking out what she would wear, carefully choosing something casual but not sloppy, comfortable but neat. She had tried to strike a balance between looking put together and being approachable. Emma had insisted on wearing her favorite pink dress with a unicorn on the front. Sarah had let her. It was easier than arguing, and she couldn't resist the twinkle in her daughter's eyes. As Sarah brushed Emma's hair into 2 small ponytails, she practiced what she would say. "Hi, I'm Sarah, this is Emma." Over and over she rehearsed the words, imagining different scenarios. What if the man didn't like children? What if he was rude or impatient? What if Emma got bored or upset? The possibilities swirled in her mind like storm clouds. By the time they left, Sarah's stomach was a bundle of nerves. Emma clutched her favorite doll tightly in her small hands, hopping with excitement at the idea of going out. "Mommy, is it a party?" Emma asked. "No, sweetheart. Just a dinner with someone new," Sarah replied, forcing a calm tone. She smiled down at Emma, noticing the childlike excitement in her eyes. Despite her worries, she found herself smiling too. Emma's enthusiasm was contagious. The cafe was a cozy little place tucked into a quiet street, with warm lights glowing in the windows. It had a welcoming atmosphere, the kind of place that smelled like freshly brewed coffee and baked bread. Sarah held Emma's hand as they entered, scanning the room. There he was, Michael. He looked just like Laura had described, tall, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He was sitting at a small table near the window, his posture relaxed, though his expression showed he was slightly nervous. Beside him sat a small boy, probably about 5, quietly coloring in a book. Sarah felt her heartbeat quicken. She had expected nerves, but seeing him there with a child already made her anxious. She wasn't sure how this was going to go, but there was no turning back now. She took a deep breath and approached. "Hi, I'm Sarah, this is Emma," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Michael's eyes lit up and he stood to greet them. "Hi, Sarah. Nice to meet you, and you must be Emma," he said warmly. He crouched slightly so he could be at eye level with her daughter. "I'm Michael, and this is my son, Jacob." Emma blinked at him, a little shy, and then held out her hand to shake his. Michael smiled and shook it gently. "It's great to meet you, Emma." Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. He seemed patient and kind, not at all bothered by the presence of a child. That small act, kneeling to speak to her daughter, spoke volumes to Sarah. It showed respect, empathy, and understanding. She realized she had been holding her breath, waiting to see if he would react negatively. Instead, he had greeted them warmly. They all sat down together, Emma still clutching her doll while Jacob kept his crayons busy. Sarah tried to focus on conversation, but Emma kept interrupting with small, curious questions. "What's your favorite color?" she asked Michael, peering at him with wide eyes. Michael laughed softly, clearly amused. "Blue, yours." "Pink," Emma said proudly, holding up the unicorn on her dress. Sarah smiled at the interaction. She had been worried about bringing Emma along, imagining it might be awkward or embarrassing. Instead, it felt natural. The two children were curious, polite, and slowly warming up to each other. Michael was patient, answering every question with a smile and even asking Emma some questions in return. As the evening continued, Sarah began to notice small things that made her feel more comfortable. Michael didn't rush the conversation. He didn't seem impatient when Emma wandered off to examine the condiments on the table. He offered to help Jacob with a tricky coloring part, and even joked gently when Emma tried to sneak a cookie before dinner. These little actions told Sarah he was someone who could handle life with children without complaint or frustration. For the first time in a long while, Sarah allowed herself to relax. She watched Michael talk to Emma and Jacob, laughing quietly at their antics, and she felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe dating as a single mother wasn't as impossible as she had feared. Maybe it could even be enjoyable. She stole a glance at Michael, noticing the warmth in his eyes and the ease with which he handled the children. There was something comforting about his presence, something reassuring. She realized that this date, which had seemed like a gamble, might be the start of something good, not just for her, but for Emma as well. Dinner arrived, and the children were excited about their kid-friendly meals. Sarah had prepared a small snack for Emma, just in case she got hungry before the food arrived, but it wasn't necessary. Emma and Jacob were happily munching on their sandwiches, sharing bites and giggling when one of them made a funny face. Sarah found herself joining in the laughter. She had forgotten how long it had been since she had genuinely enjoyed someone's company outside the world of parenting responsibilities. Michael asked questions about her work, her hobbies, her life, and listened intently, never interrupting, never making her feel rushed. She realized that it wasn't just that he was kind to children. He was genuinely interested in her as a person. By the time dessert arrived, Sarah felt a strange but wonderful mix of relief and excitement. The nerves she had felt all afternoon had faded, replaced by anticipation. Maybe this blind date wasn't going to be awkward after all. Maybe it was exactly what she needed, a chance to see if life could hold both romance and the joy of family. As they finished their desserts and prepared to leave, Sarah knelt down to Emma's level. "Thank you for being so good today, sweetheart," she whispered. Emma beamed up at her, already talking about how much fun she had. Michael smiled at Sarah, noticing the small moment. "You've got a very smart, very sweet little girl," he said quietly, "and she seems to like me." Sarah laughed softly, feeling the tension of the day melt away. "I think she does, and I think you've passed the test," she said, teasing lightly. Michael chuckled, a warm, comfortable sound that made Sarah's heart skip a beat. Walking out of the cafe, Sarah held Emma's hand tightly, feeling a mix of hope and curiosity. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, she was excited to find out. Michael sat back in his chair, watching Sarah and Emma leave the cafe. He couldn't help but smile at how lively Emma had been, and how effortlessly Sarah had handled her. There was something about her that immediately put him at ease. It wasn't just that she was kind to children. It was the way she seemed to care about everyone around her, the gentle way she carried herself. He glanced at Jacob, who was still coloring in his book, and realized he wanted Emma and his son to meet more often. The next morning, Michael found himself thinking about Sarah and Emma. He usually didn't dwell on blind dates. They rarely led anywhere meaningful, but something about her lingered in his mind. He remembered how she had laughed at his jokes, how carefully she had listened, and how comfortable she seemed despite being nervous. He also remembered Emma's shy but curious eyes, and the way Jacob had brightened up when she had said hello. Michael realized that there was potential here, not just for romance, but for something deeper, something family-like. Meanwhile, Sarah woke up feeling unusually excited. She stretched lazily in bed while Emma bounced beside her, tugging at the blanket. "Mommy, can we play with Jacob again?" Emma asked. Her eyes were wide and hopeful, like she already wanted to continue the friendship she had started yesterday. Sarah chuckled, brushing Emma's hair back. "Well, we don't know if we'll see him again, sweetheart, but I think we should wait and see." She didn't mention the flutter in her own heart. The memory of Michael's warm smile made her cheeks tingle. Over the next few days, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about the blind date. She had expected it to be awkward and stressful, but it had been surprisingly easy. Michael had been kind, patient, and genuinely interested in getting to know both her and Emma. She realized that she had been worrying unnecessarily. Perhaps it was possible to meet someone who understood the challenges of being a single parent, someone who could handle unexpected moments with grace. Sarah decided to send Michael a text. She hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to say. It wasn't easy to put herself out there, especially after years of focusing on Emma. Finally, she typed, "Hi Michael, I just wanted to say thank you again for yesterday. Emma really enjoyed meeting you and Jacob." It was a lovely afternoon. She stared at the message for a moment before sending it, feeling a mix of hope and nerves. The reply came within minutes. "Hi Sarah, I'm glad you and Emma had a good time. I really enjoyed it too. Jacob keeps asking when he can see Emma again." Sarah felt a warmth in her chest. She hadn't expected the interaction to continue beyond the date, but Michael's response showed genuine interest, not just in her, but in Emma as well. A week later, Sarah and Emma found themselves back at the same cafe. This time, it wasn't a formal blind date, but a casual meeting arranged by Michael. He had suggested they bring the children along again, knowing how important it was for them to feel comfortable. When they arrived, Michael was already there, chatting with Jacob, who waved excitedly the moment he saw Emma. "Emma, look who's here," Jacob said, running toward her. Emma giggled and ran to meet him halfway. Sarah smiled, watching the children interact. The nervousness she had felt before was replaced with a sense of relief. Michael had kept the environment light and friendly, allowing the kids to connect naturally. The adults sat at a table nearby, sipping coffee while keeping an eye on the children. Sarah and Michael began to talk about more personal things, work, hobbies, and even the small challenges of parenting. She learned that Michael worked in a community center, organizing programs for children, and that he had been raising Jacob on his own since his ex-wife had moved to another city. Michael admired her dedication to Emma and her ability to balance work and motherhood. At one point, Emma dropped her doll and Jacob picked it up, handing it back with a shy smile. "Here, this is yours," he said. Emma hugged him tightly, and Sarah felt a strange but wonderful feeling of connection. It wasn't just her heart. It was Emma's happiness that made the moment so meaningful. As the afternoon progressed, Sarah realized that she was enjoying herself more than she had expected. She laughed at Michael's jokes and found herself sharing stories about Emma that she usually reserved for close friends. Michael listened attentively, never interrupting, always responding with warmth and understanding. Sarah realized that she hadn't felt this comfortable with someone in a long time. The children grew tired and decided to play a little game outside. Sarah and Michael followed them to the small park beside the cafe. Emma ran toward the swings while Jacob held her hand, making sure she didn't fall. Sarah watched, her heart swelling. Seeing the children get along so well was more than she had hoped for. Michael noticed her gaze. "They're great together," he said softly. "I didn't expect them to click so quickly." Sarah smiled, feeling a mix of joy and relief. "I know, it's nice to see them so happy." She realized that part of her initial anxiety had been about how her child would react to meeting someone new. Seeing Emma comfortable and excited helped Sarah trust that this situation wasn't as risky as she had feared. After some time, the group returned to the cafe. The children were tired but happy. sitting quietly with ice cream cones in their hands. Sarah noticed the way Michael interacted with Jacob, patiently listening to his stories, making him laugh, and encouraging him to share. She couldn't help but compare it to how she had struggled to find someone patient and understanding. Michael seemed to have an ease with children that was rare and genuine. As the afternoon ended, Michael walked Sarah and Emma to their car. Emma hugged him tightly, whispering, "See you soon." Jacob waved, his smile bright and innocent. Sarah thanked Michael for a wonderful day, feeling a mix of gratitude and something more, hope. Michael's expression softened. "It was a wonderful day," he said. "I'm looking forward to seeing you all again soon." Driving home, Sarah felt a quiet excitement. She glanced at Emma, who was chattering happily about the swings, the ice cream, and Jacob's funny faces. Sarah realized that this experience was different from anything she had imagined. She wasn't just enjoying a date. She was witnessing a potential bond forming between her daughter and another child, between herself and someone who seemed capable of understanding her life. That night, as Sarah tucked Emma into bed, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. Emma hugged her tightly, whispering, "Mommy, I like Jacob. Can we see him again?" Sarah kissed her forehead. "Yes, sweetheart. We'll see him again very soon." She sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, reflecting on the past week. The fear she had carried about dating as a single mother was beginning to fade. She realized that the right person would not only accept her daughter but embrace her. Michael's kindness, patience, and understanding gave her hope that such a person could exist. Before drifting off to sleep, Sarah found herself imagining what the future could hold. Maybe there would be more afternoons like this one, with laughter, shared stories, and children running around together. Maybe there would be moments of quiet understanding, deep conversations, and mutual respect. She allowed herself to feel excited, something she hadn't done in a long time. As the city lights flickered outside the window, Sarah closed her eyes with a small, hopeful smile. She didn't know exactly what the future held, but for the first time in years, she felt ready to find out, and she felt ready to let someone into their lives. The following Saturday, Sarah and Emma found themselves heading back to the cafe with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Emma chattered in the backseat about how much she was looking forward to seeing Jacob again. "Mommy, he's going to teach me a new game. Right, Mommy?" Sarah smiled, glancing in the rearview mirror at her daughter's eager face. "We'll see, sweetheart. But I'm sure you two will have fun." Despite her calm words, Sarah's stomach fluttered. She was looking forward to seeing Michael again, but she still felt that small knot of anxiety whenever she met someone new, even though her first impression of him had been so positive. When they arrived at the cafe, Michael was already there, holding the door open for them. Jacob ran ahead, calling out, "Emma." The two children collided in a joyful hug, giggling and pulling each other toward the park nearby. Michael and Sarah exchanged a smile, a quiet understanding passing between them. "Hi, Sarah. Hi, Emma," Michael said warmly. "Ready for another fun afternoon?" "Yes," Emma squealed, tugging on Sarah's hand as she tried to run back to the playground. Michael chuckled, shaking his head. "I think they're more excited than we are." Sarah laughed softly. "It's hard to argue with that." The children immediately began playing together, inventing games and laughing at each other's antics. Michael and Sarah found themselves walking slowly beside them, talking quietly so they could hear one another over the children's laughter. Sarah noticed that Michael was just as patient as he had been on their first meeting. He didn't rush the kids, didn't grow frustrated when Emma tripped or when Jacob insisted on doing things his way. Instead, he guided them gently, offering encouragement and praise. At one point, Emma tried to climb a small slide, but she lost her balance and stumbled, scraping her knee. Sarah's heart skipped a beat and she rushed forward. "Emma, are you okay?" Emma looked up, tears welling in her eyes. "It hurts, Mommy," she said softly. Michael immediately knelt beside them. "Hey, it's okay, Emma. Let's clean it up and you'll feel better in no time." He pulled a small first aid kit from his bag, something he always carried for Jacob, and gently cleaned the scrape. Emma watched him carefully, her tears slowly turning into curiosity. Sarah felt a deep sense of relief. Michael's calmness and care in that moment made her feel safe. She realized that he didn't just react well when things went smoothly. He handled unexpected problems with patience and kindness. It was a small thing, a scrape on a knee, but it showed her a lot about the man he was. Once the scrape was cleaned and bandaged, Emma gave Michael a small smile. "Thank you," she whispered. Michael ruffled her hair gently. "You're very brave, Emma. See, all better." The children went back to playing, and Sarah found herself relaxing more than she had in a long time. She and Michael walked a little further down the park path, talking quietly. "So, how has your week been?" Michael asked, his voice warm and genuine. Sarah shrugged lightly. "Busy as usual. Emma keeps me on my toes, but I can't complain. It's a good kind of busy." She smiled, thinking of the little routines and small joys that made her life full, even if it was exhausting at times. Michael nodded. "I know what you mean. Jacob keeps me busy too. But watching them grow and laugh makes it worth everything." They shared a quiet moment of understanding. Both of them were parents. Both had experienced the challenges and joys of raising children alone. There was an unspoken connection forming, a mutual respect and empathy that went beyond mere attraction. Back at the playground, the children had moved on to a game where they pretended the swings were rocket ships and the slide was a castle. Michael and Sarah watched, laughing quietly at their imagination and energy. At one point, Jacob tried to push Emma on the swing, but she held on tightly, squealing with delight. Then, in an excited attempt to join the fun, Emma accidentally knocked over Jacob's cup of juice, spilling it across the bench and the ground. Sarah's heart raced. Her first instinct was embarrassment. "Oh no, I'm so sorry," she said quickly, reaching for some napkins. But Michael calmly knelt beside the mess, smiling reassuringly. "It's okay, Sarah, don't worry about it, these things happen." He wiped up the spill quickly and even managed to make Emma giggle in the process. "See, no problem at all, accidents are part of the fun." Sarah stared at him, a mixture of relief and admiration in her eyes. She realized in that moment that Michael's reaction was exactly what she had hoped for, a man who didn't judge, who didn't get frustrated at small mistakes, who could handle life's little challenges with ease and kindness. Emma hugged her doll tightly, smiling at Michael. "Thank you for helping," she said. Michael grinned. "Anytime, Emma, that's what friends are for." Watching the children laugh and play, Sarah felt her heart swell with a warm, comforting feeling. She was beginning to see what could be possible. A life where her child could feel safe and happy around someone she cared about. A life where love didn't have to mean sacrifice or stress, but joy and support. After a while, the children grew tired and sat down under a large tree, sipping juice and sharing snacks. Michael and Sarah joined them, enjoying the quiet moment. They talked about small things, favorite books, family traditions, and childhood memories, gradually learning more about each other. Sarah discovered that Michael loved reading to Jacob every night and that he enjoyed cooking simple meals on weekends. Michael learned that Sarah loved painting, even if she rarely found time for it now, and that she had a soft spot for animals and volunteering at the local shelter. The conversation flowed naturally, without pressure or awkward pauses. Sarah felt herself letting go of some of her usual worries. She had been so used to managing everything on her own that trusting someone else, even in a small way, felt foreign and thrilling. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, Michael suggested they take the children for a short walk around the park's small pond. Emma and Jacob held hands, skipping along the path, their laughter echoing softly in the evening air. Sarah walked beside Michael, feeling a growing sense of closeness and connection. "You know," Michael said quietly, I was a little nervous about meeting you again, but seeing the kids happy together, it makes me feel like this was the right idea." Sarah smiled, her heart warming at his words. "I felt the same way. I wasn't sure how it would go, but this feels natural." They stopped by the pond, watching the ducks swim lazily across the water. The children leaned over the edge, pointing and giggling as the ducks quacked. Michael handed Sarah a small paper napkin, which she used to dab at Emma's sticky fingers, and their hands brushed lightly. A small, silent spark passed between them, a moment of recognition that they were both feeling something beyond friendship. As the evening drew to a close, Michael walked Sarah and Emma back to their car. Emma hugged him tightly. "See you soon, Jacob," she whispered, already looking forward to their next meeting. Jacob waved from a few steps behind, his small smile bright and sincere. Sarah looked up at Michael, a mixture of gratitude and something deeper in her eyes. "Thank you for today." "It was really wonderful," Michael's smile softened. "It was wonderful because of all of you, Emma and Jacob, they're amazing kids." He paused, as if considering his next words carefully. "I hope we can do this again soon." Sarah felt a quiet excitement bubble inside her. "I'd like that," she said softly. Driving home, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about the day. She had been worried about accidents, awkward moments, and whether Michael would truly understand her life as a single mother. But his patience, kindness, and genuine interest had made her feel seen and understood. More than that, she realized that she had enjoyed herself, not just for the children's sake, but for her own. Emma, tired from the day's adventures, leaned against her mother's shoulder, mumbling happily about the swing and the ducks. Sarah smiled down at her, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in years. She glanced at the empty passenger seat beside her, imagining Michael there, sharing in their small joys, laughing at the little accidents, and helping her navigate this complicated but beautiful life. For the first time in a long while, Sarah felt a sense of hope and possibility. Maybe dating as a single mother wasn't as complicated as she had feared. Maybe, just maybe, it could be a journey filled with laughter, support, and connection, not just for her, but for Emma too. And in that quiet moment, as the car hummed softly along the road, Sarah realized something profound. Michael's reaction to her daughter, to the small accidents, and to the ordinary chaos of their lives had changed everything. She could feel it in her heart. A new chapter was beginning, one filled with promise, understanding, and perhaps even love. The next weekend arrived with a bright, sunny morning. Sarah had decided to invite Michael and Jacob over to her apartment for a casual playdate. Emma was beyond excited, bouncing around the living room, clapping her hands. "Mommy, they're coming, she squealed, hugging her doll tightly. Sarah laughed, picking up Emma and spinning her around. "I know, sweetheart. Let's make sure everything is ready so they have fun." She quickly checked the living room, tidying up a few toys and making a small snack station with juice boxes, fruit slices, and cookies. It wasn't a fancy setup, but she knew the children didn't care about that. They just wanted a space to play and have fun together. When Michael arrived with Jacob, the moment felt warm and natural. Emma ran toward them, and Jacob eagerly joined in, holding her hand as they laughed and skipped around the apartment. Sarah felt her heart swell as she watched the children interact. Their laughter filled the space with energy and joy, and she couldn't help but smile at the sight. Michael smiled at Sarah as he stepped inside. "Your place feels so cozy," he said, glancing around. "Emma's already exploring, and Jacob doesn't know where to go first." Sarah laughed. "It's not much, but it works. I'm glad you're both here." They settled into the living room, watching the children play. Michael and Sarah began talking quietly, sitting on the couch with cups of coffee. The conversation started casually, as it usually did, work, hobbies, weekend plans, but gradually it moved into deeper territory. "You know," Michael said, his voice soft, "it's been really nice watching the kids together." I didn't expect them to get along so quickly, but it feels natural." Sarah nodded, her eyes following Emma and Jacob as they built a tower with blocks. "I know. I was worried at first, bringing Emma into this, letting her meet someone new. But seeing them so happy together, it makes me feel like this is something good, not just for me, but for her too." Michael looked at her, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "You're a really good mom, Sarah. Patient, caring, and you always make sure Emma feels included and safe. That's not easy, and it shows a lot about who you are." Sarah felt a warmth in her chest, touched by his words. She had spent so long doubting herself, worrying about whether she could ever find someone who truly understood the challenges of being a single parent. Michael's acknowledgement of her efforts made her feel seen, respected, and valued, not just as a mother, but as a person. Meanwhile, the children had moved on to another game. They decided the living room was a jungle, with blankets as tents and cushions as mountains. Emma pretended to be a brave explorer, while Jacob became a friendly guide showing her the paths through the jungle. Their imagination transformed the small apartment into a world of adventure, and the adults couldn't help but watch with amusement. At one point, Emma tripped over a cushion and fell, scraping her knee slightly. Sarah's heart jumped and she quickly went to check on her. "I'm okay, Mommy," Emma said, looking up with wide eyes. Michael immediately stepped forward, kneeling beside her. "Hey, little explorer, it's all right. Let's take care of that so you can continue your adventure." He gently cleaned the scrape and gave her a small bandage, making her giggle with his funny, reassuring words. Sarah felt a surge of relief and admiration. Michael didn't just handle the children's mishaps. He did it in a way that made them feel safe, cared for, and even amused. She realized that his patience and kindness weren't limited to small moments. They were a part of who he was. After the small accident, they all settled down to a snack break. Michael handed out juice boxes and cookies, chatting casually with Sarah while keeping an eye on the children. She realized she was enjoying his company more than ever, feeling comfortable and at ease in a way she hadn't felt with anyone in a long time. As the afternoon continued, Sarah and Michael found themselves laughing together, sharing stories about their childhoods, their favorite books, and funny experiences with Emma and Jacob. They discovered they had more in common than they had realized, similar values, a love for simple joys, and a desire to give their children a happy, safe life. The children soon decided to play outside in the small courtyard near Sarah's apartment. Emma and Jacob ran ahead, laughing and holding hands, while Sarah and Michael followed more slowly, talking quietly. "You know," Michael said, glancing at her, "I've been thinking it's rare to meet someone who makes this feel so easy. You make it feel natural, like everything's supposed to happen this way." Sarah looked at him, her heart racing. She had felt the same, but hearing him say it out loud made it real. "I feel the same, Michael. I've been hesitant for so long, but being with you, seeing how you handle everything, it feels right." They paused for a moment, watching Emma and Jacob play near the swings. The children's laughter was infectious, and Sarah realized how much she wanted this kind of connection, not just for herself, but for Emma. Michael reached out and gently touched her arm. "I want you to know I'm serious about this, about getting to know you and about the kids. I want to see if we can build something together, something that includes both of them." Sarah felt a mix of emotions, relief, happiness, and a deep sense of hope. She had been careful with her heart for years, protecting herself and Emma from disappointment. But now, looking at Michael's sincere expression, she felt a trust growing, a sense that this could truly work. "Michael," she said softly, "I feel the same. I've been waiting for someone who understands what it's like to have a child, someone who can be patient, kind, and caring, and that's exactly what you are." Michael smiled, relief and joy in his eyes. "I promise I'll always try to be the kind of person Emma and Jacob can trust and feel comfortable with, and I'll do my best for you too, Sarah." As they continued to watch the children, Sarah felt a wave of peace wash over her. The day had been filled with laughter, small accidents, and playful adventures, but it had also been filled with meaningful connection, understanding, and hope for the future. Emma ran over, holding Jacob's hand, and tugged them toward the sandbox. "Come on, Mommy." "Come on, Michael. We're building a castle." Sarah and Michael followed, kneeling beside the children and helping them dig and shape the sand. They laughed as the castle took shape, decorated with sticks, leaves, and small stones. The children's creativity and imagination made the moment magical, and Sarah realized that this was more than just a playdate. It was the beginning of something special. By the time the sun began to set, painting the sky with soft shades of pink and orange, the castle was complete. The children stood proudly beside their creation, and Sarah felt her heart swell with joy. She looked at Michael, who was smiling warmly, his hand brushing hers lightly as they admired the sandcastle together. "Look at them," Sarah said softly. "They're so happy together. I think this is how it's supposed to be." Michael nodded, squeezing her hand gently. "I think so too, and I want to make sure it stays this way for all of us." The children, exhausted from their adventures, hugged each other tightly. Emma looked up at Sarah, her eyes sparkling. "Mommy, can we do this again tomorrow?" Sarah laughed softly. "Not tomorrow, sweetheart, but soon, I promise." As Michael helped Jacob gather his things, Sarah realized that this day had changed something inside her. She had feared dating, feared introducing someone new into their lives, feared disappointment. But Michael's patience, kindness, and genuine love for children had shown her that it was possible to open her heart again. Walking Michael and Jacob to the door, Sarah felt a sense of connection and possibility that she hadn't felt in years. "Thank you for today," she said, her voice warm. "It was perfect." Michael smiled, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "It was perfect because of all of you. I can't wait for next time." As the door closed behind them, Sarah turned to Emma, who was already planning their next adventure. "Mommy, I think we made new friends forever," Emma said with certainty. Sarah hugged her tightly, feeling a warmth that reached deep into her heart. "I think we did, sweetheart. I think we really did." For the first time in a long while, Sarah felt a deep sense of hope, not just for herself, but for Emma and the possibility of a happy, connected family. She knew the journey was just beginning, but this day had shown her that with patience, kindness, and love, anything was possible. Over the next few weeks, Sarah, Emma, Michael, and Jacob found themselves spending more time together. It began with small things, playdates at the park, visits to the library, and casual coffee afternoons where the children played nearby while Sarah and Michael talked. Each meeting brought a sense of comfort and familiarity, a quiet bond growing between them all. One sunny Saturday morning, Sarah decided to take the children and Michael on a small adventure. She packed a picnic basket with sandwiches, fruit, and juice boxes. Emma bounced around excitedly while helping pack, her little hands struggling to close the basket lid. "Mommy, I want to carry it," she said. Sarah smiled, letting her try. "All right, sweetheart, but only halfway, okay?" Michael arrived shortly after, carrying a small bag with extra snacks and blankets for the picnic. Jacob ran to meet them, and the children immediately began planning their route to the nearby park. "We're going to the swings first, then the pond," Emma shouted, tugging on Michael's hand. The group set off, laughter filling the air. Sarah walked beside Michael, her heart light. She felt an ease with him that she hadn't experienced with anyone in years. Their conversations were effortless, filled with humor, curiosity, and the kind of quiet understanding that comes from shared experiences. At the park, the children ran ahead, exploring every corner with wide-eyed excitement. Sarah watched as Michael guided them gently, encouraging them to take turns on the swings and helping Emma climb the small jungle gym safely. She noticed the way he naturally took care of both children, giving each of them attention while allowing them independence. It made her heart swell. After a while, they spread out a blanket for their picnic. The children dug into the sandwiches and fruit, chatting happily. Sarah and Michael sat together on the blanket, watching them with soft smiles. "You know," Michael said, breaking a comfortable silence, "I never thought spending time with someone else's child could feel this natural, but with Emma, it just feels right." Sarah looked at him, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "I feel the same. I was nervous at first about bringing her along, about whether it would be awkward, but it's never been awkward with you. You've made it so easy." Michael reached over and gently squeezed her hand. "Sarah, I want you to know that I'm serious. I don't just like spending time with you. I like who you are, and I like the way our kids seem to connect. I want to keep building this together." Sarah's eyes glistened. She had been cautious for so long, protecting her heart and Emma's, but Michael's words, his sincerity, made her feel safe and hopeful. "I want that too," she said softly. "More than anything, I want this to work for all of us." The children, sensing the adults' conversation, didn't seem to mind. They were too busy building a fort with fallen branches and leaves. Emma giggled as Jacob tried to balance on a log, pretending it was a bridge over a river. Sarah and Michael watched, amused, as the children's imagination transformed the park into a world of adventure. As the afternoon passed, Sarah noticed how natural it felt to include Michael in their small family moments. She remembered all the times she had been alone, trying to manage everything by herself. Now, watching Michael interact with Emma, she realized how much lighter life felt with someone she could trust, someone who shared her values and cared deeply for her daughter. At one point, Emma tripped over a small rock, tumbling onto the grass. Sarah rushed forward, but Michael was already there, helping her up. "It's okay, Emma. You're fine," he said gently, brushing grass from her dress. "See, nothing to worry about." Sarah felt a familiar warmth as she watched him. In that small moment, she realized how much Michael's presence had changed her perspective on dating, family, and trust. He didn't just react calmly. He made her feel supported, seen, and respected. Later, they sat on a bench near the pond, the children skipping stones and watching ducks swim by. Sarah and Michael shared a quiet conversation about the future, discussing hopes, dreams, and the possibility of blending their lives together. "I know it's early," Michael said thoughtfully, "but I can see us building something together, something steady and happy. I want to be there for you and Emma for the long term." Sarah nodded, feeling a sense of certainty she hadn't felt in years. "I want that too." "And I can see it too. It feels right, Michael. Everything about this feels right." They shared a moment of quiet understanding, their hands brushing as they watched the children play. Sarah felt her heart swell with hope. She realized that the journey she had been afraid of, dating as a single mother, wasn't frightening anymore. It was filled with possibility, love, and partnership. The children eventually grew tired, sitting side by side on the grass, tired but happy. Michael suggested they head home, and Sarah agreed, feeling content. The drive back was quiet but comfortable, filled with small chatter and laughter as Emma and Jacob recounted their favorite parts of the day. When they arrived at Sarah's apartment, the children reluctantly said goodbye, hugging each other tightly. "See you tomorrow?" Emma asked Jacob. "Definitely," he replied, smiling brightly. Michael turned to Sarah, a soft smile on his face. "Thank you for today. I love spending time with all of you. It feels complete in a way I didn't expect." Sarah felt a warmth she couldn't fully describe. "I feel the same. I was nervous about opening up again, but you've made it feel safe, Michael. I trust you, and I know Emma does too." Michael's expression softened. "That means more to me than I can say, Sarah. I promise I'll always be there for both of you." As he left, Sarah felt a quiet sense of peace. She looked at Emma, who was already talking about the next adventure. "Mommy, can we do that again soon?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. Sarah smiled, hugging her daughter. "Yes, sweetheart, we can do it as much as we want." That evening, as Sarah tucked Emma into bed, she reflected on how much had changed in just a few weeks. From a nervous blind date to these quiet, joyful afternoons filled with laughter, care, and connection, her life had shifted in ways she hadn't expected. She realized that love and family weren't about perfection. They were about patience, understanding, and the willingness to open one's heart. Emma yawned, snuggling into her pillow. "Mommy, I like Michael, and Jacob, they're my friends." Sarah kissed her forehead. "I know, sweetheart, I like them too." She sat on the edge of the bed, taking a deep breath. The future felt bright, filled with hope and promise. She had been afraid of starting over, afraid of risking her heart and Emma's happiness, but she had learned that taking a chance could lead to something wonderful. Over the next few months, their bond grew stronger. Playdates became regular. Weekends were spent exploring parks, libraries, and little adventures around the city. Sarah and Michael discovered more about each other, sharing quiet dinners while the children played nearby, and learning to trust one another fully. One evening, after a long day at the park, they sat on Sarah's couch, the children asleep in their rooms. Michael looked at Sarah, his expression soft and sincere. "I know we've only known each other a short time, but I can't imagine my life without you and Emma now. You've changed everything for me." Sarah's eyes filled with tears, a mixture of happiness and relief. "You've changed everything for me too, Michael. I never thought I could feel this way again, this hope, this trust. You've made me believe in love again." Michael reached out, holding her hands gently. "I want to keep building this together, not just for us but for the kids. I want us to be a family in every way that matters." Sarah smiled, feeling a sense of completeness she had never experienced before. "I want that too," she whispered. And in that quiet, warm moment, they both knew that the journey they had started, hesitant, uncertain, and full of small risks, had led them to something extraordinary. Love, trust, and family had entered their lives in the most unexpected way, and they were ready to embrace it fully. As they sat together, hands intertwined, Sarah felt a deep sense of gratitude. What had begun as a nervous blind date had turned into a connection that promised joy, partnership, and the possibility of a blended family full of laughter, love, and hope. She realized that life could be unpredictable, but with patience, kindness, and trust, it could also be beautiful. The children's laughter, the small moments of care, the quiet understanding between Sarah and Michael, it all added up to something greater than themselves. And in that moment, Sarah knew with certainty. Everything had truly changed for the better, and this was only the beginning of their story.